Have you ever felt the need to prove yourself? To prove that you are strong? To prove that you are successful? To prove that you are better than the person standing beside you? Perhaps you have worked hard for years, yet still feel that no one truly sees your effort. Perhaps you have been hurt by someone's words and spent hours thinking about how to answer them. Or perhaps you have discovered that the more you try to prove your worth to the world, the more exhausted you become. If you are carrying that kind of weight in your heart tonight, stay with Zen Sunrise Life. Because sometimes, the greatest strength is not found in speaking louder, but in knowing when to remain silent. Tonight, let us travel back more than 2,000 years, to the spring and autumn period, an age when rival kingdoms fought for power, warriors defended their rulers, and ambitious men dreamed of having their names remembered throughout history. But among all those who sought recognition, there was one warrior who became respected for something very different. He did not boast about his victories. He did not seek applause. He rarely spoke about himself. And yet, when trouble came, everyone knew exactly who they could trust. His name was Jian. Jian was born in a small village near the border of the state of Chu. His father had once served as a soldier. He taught Jian how to use a sword, how to ride a horse, and how to remain calm when facing danger. But there was one lesson his father repeated more often than any other. A sword that is always drawn will eventually cut the hand that holds it. Jian never fully understood those words when he was young. He believed strength meant being fearless. He believed a powerful warrior should never step backward. And most of all, he believed respect had to be earned through victory. When Jian was 17, he joined a group of young warriors preparing to defend the border. Among them was another young man named Bo. Bo was strong, confident, and loud. He enjoyed showing everyone how quickly he could draw his sword. Whenever the soldiers practiced together, Bo challenged anyone who would accept. He often defeated the younger warriors, and every victory made him louder. One evening, after defeating 3 men in succession, Bo looked toward Jian. "You have been watching all afternoon. Why don't you fight me?" The other soldiers gathered around. They expected Jian to accept. Jian simply shook his head. "Not today." Bo laughed. "Are you afraid?" The soldiers began whispering. Some smiled. Others looked at Jian with disappointment. Bo stepped closer. A real warrior does not refuse a challenge. Jian looked at him calmly. "Perhaps. But a real warrior also knows which battles are worth fighting." Bo's smile disappeared. He thought Jian was insulting him. But Jian walked away without another word. That night, while the other soldiers talked about the day's victories, Jian sat alone beside the campfire. He sharpened his sword slowly. An older commander named General Ren watched him from across the fire. After several minutes, the general walked over. "You allowed the others to think you were afraid," Jian continued, sharpening the blade. "Let them think what they want." The general smiled. "Why?" Jian finally looked up. "Because their opinion does not change who I am." The old commander sat beside him. "You are young. I was once like you," Jian said. "No," the general laughed softly. "You were never like me." "Why?" "Because when I was young, I needed everyone to know that I was strong." He looked toward the darkness beyond the camp. "It took me many years to understand something." "What?" The general pointed toward Jian's sword. "A sword does not become sharp because it tells everyone it is sharp. It becomes sharp because it spends years quietly being forged." Jian stopped sharpening. The words stayed with him. The following months were difficult. The soldiers trained every morning. They marched through mountains, they crossed rivers, they slept beneath cold skies. Some men complained, some boasted, some fought over small disagreements. Jian rarely joined them. He trained quietly. When another soldier fell behind, he waited. When someone struggled with a heavy load, he helped carry it. When someone made a mistake, he corrected them without humiliating them. Slowly, the other soldiers began to notice. Not because Jian asked them to, but because his actions spoke when his words remained silent. One winter morning, a messenger arrived at the camp. Enemy forces had crossed the northern border. The soldiers were ordered to prepare for battle. Fear spread quickly through the camp. Men who had boasted about their courage only days earlier suddenly became silent. Some began checking their weapons repeatedly. Others wrote letters to their families. That evening, General Ren gathered the soldiers. The enemy is larger than we expected. The camp became completely silent. We may be outnumbered. Bo stepped forward. We will defeat them. His voice was loud. We are not afraid. Several soldiers cheered. Jian said nothing. The general looked at him. Jian? Yes, General? If tomorrow becomes difficult, will you stand your ground? Jian looked toward the dark mountains beyond the camp. Then he answered quietly, I will do what needs to be done. Nothing more. The general nodded. And that night, while the others slept, Jian remained awake beside the dying fire. He looked at his sword, then at the stars above him. He remembered his father's words. A sword that is always drawn will eventually cut the hand that holds it. For the first time, Jian understood. His father had never been teaching him only about a sword. He had been teaching him about anger, about pride, about the endless desire to prove oneself, and about a truth that many people discover only after years of struggle. Real strength does not need an audience. The next morning, the horns of war echoed across the valley. Thousands of soldiers began moving toward the battlefield. And somewhere beyond the hills, the enemy was waiting. Jian tightened his grip on his sword. But unlike the young warrior he had once been, he was no longer fighting to prove that he was strong. He was preparing to protect the people who depended on him. And that difference would soon change everything. The battlefield lay beyond the northern hills. As the first light of dawn appeared, thousands of soldiers moved across the valley. Flags of different kingdoms rose above the army like waves upon the sea. Horses stamped against the cold earth. Metal armor reflected the pale morning light. The sound of drums echoed between the mountains. Boom, boom, boom. Every beat seemed to shake the hearts of the soldiers. Jian stood among the front ranks. Around him were men he had trained with for months. Some were confident. Some were frightened. Some tried to hide their fear behind loud words. Bo stood nearby. His sword was already drawn. He looked toward the enemy army and smiled. Today, everyone will know my name. Jian said nothing. He simply watched the battlefield. The enemy was larger. Much larger. Their soldiers stretched across the valley like a dark river. Their cavalry waited behind the front lines. Their archers stood upon the hills. Jian noticed something that others had missed. The enemy was confident. Too confident. Their center was strong, but their left side was spread too thin. He quietly approached General Ren. General. The old commander turned. What did you see? Their left flank. Jian pointed toward the distant hills. They are protecting the center so strongly that they have weakened their side. General Ren studied the battlefield. For several moments, he said nothing. Then he smiled. You have learned to observe. Jian bowed. I only looked carefully. The general turned toward his officers. Move the 3rd unit toward the northern ridge. The order was given. The battle began. Drums thundered. Arrows filled the sky. Thousands of soldiers charged forward. The peaceful valley that had once been filled with birdsong was suddenly filled with noise. Metal struck metal. Horses screamed. Men shouted. The earth trembled beneath their feet. Jian moved with his unit. He did not charge blindly. He watched. He waited. He protected the soldier beside him. When an enemy attacked, he responded. When there was no need to strike, he did not waste his strength. Around him, several warriors fought with rage. They swung their swords wildly. They wanted to defeat as many enemies as possible. Jian fought differently. Every movement had a purpose. Every step was measured. Every breath was controlled. Bo saw him fighting. For a moment, he could not understand. Why aren't you attacking harder? Jian did not answer. Bo charged forward. He defeated one enemy soldier, then another. His confidence grew. He shouted, Look at me! I told you I would win! But the battlefield did not care about his pride. An enemy soldier suddenly appeared behind him. Bo did not see him. Jian did. Jian rushed forward. His sword struck the enemy's weapon aside. Bo turned around in shock. The enemy fell back. For a moment, the two young warriors stared at each other. Bo breathed heavily. You saved me. Jian simply said, Watch your back. Then he turned away. No pride, no smile, no demand for gratitude. He simply continued fighting. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher. The battlefield became hotter. Both armies suffered heavy losses. Then, something changed. The enemy cavalry began moving toward the center. General Ren saw them. They are preparing to break through. The officers looked toward him. What should we do? Before the general could answer, Jian spoke. Let them come. Everyone turned toward him. The general looked at Jian carefully. Explain. Their center is strong. Jian pointed toward the enemy formation. But their strength depends on keeping the center together. If we allow them to advance, they will separate themselves from their supporting units. General Ren watched the battlefield. Then he understood. Fall back. The command spread through the army. Some soldiers were confused. Others were frightened. Why retreat when they still had strength? But Jian remained calm. The enemy saw the retreat. They believed the opposing army was losing. Their cavalry charged forward. Faster and faster. The enemy commander believed victory was within reach. But he did not realize he was walking directly into the trap. When the cavalry reached the narrow valley, General Ren raised his sword. Now! The hidden archers released their arrows. The sky darkened. The enemy cavalry stopped in confusion. Behind them, the path had already been blocked. In front, the defending soldiers closed in. The enemy formation collapsed. Within minutes, the battle changed. What appeared to be weakness had been patience. What appeared to be retreat had been strategy. And what appeared to be silence had been observation. By sunset, the enemy army began retreating toward the northern hills. The soldiers of Jian's army had survived. The battlefield slowly became quiet. Smoke rose into the evening sky. Jian stood among the exhausted soldiers. His clothes were covered in dust. His hands trembled slightly from exhaustion. But he said nothing. Bo approached him. For once, there was no laughter in his voice. No one will believe what happened today. Jian looked at him. What do you mean? They will say General Ren won the battle. Jian smiled. Perhaps he did. Bo shook his head. You saw the enemy's weakness. You saved my life. You helped change the battle. And still, you don't want anyone to know. Jian looked toward the setting sun. Does it matter? Bo was silent. Jian continued. If people praise me, will the soldiers who died today return? No. If people call me a great warrior, will tomorrow become easier? No. Then what value is praise? Bo had no answer. Jian placed his sword back into its sheath. The only thing that matters is whether we did what needed to be done. Bo looked at him for a long time. Then something inside him changed. For years, he had believed strength meant being seen. He believed victory meant hearing people speak his name. He believed courage meant standing at the front and shouting louder than everyone else. But that day, he had witnessed another kind of strength. Quiet, patient, unshaken. A strength that did not need applause. That evening, the soldiers gathered around the campfire. Some spoke about the battle. Others spoke about those they had lost. General Ren walked toward Jian. Come with me. Jian followed him away from the camp. They stopped beside a small stream. The water moved quietly beneath the moonlight. The general looked at him. You have changed. Jian smiled. I am still learning. That is why you have changed. The old commander picked up a small stone from the ground. He held it in his palm. Do you know why a mountain does not argue with the wind? Jian shook his head. Because the mountain does not need to prove that it is a mountain. The general dropped the stone into the stream. It simply remains. Jian looked at the ripples spreading across the water. The words reminded him of his father. The sword, the bamboo, the mountain. All were teaching him the same lesson. Strength does not always announce itself. Sometimes, the strongest person in the room is the one who does not need to win every argument. The strongest person is the one who can walk away from an insult without carrying it into tomorrow. The strongest person is the one who can admit, I was wrong. And perhaps most importantly, the strongest person is the one who knows that their worth does not depend on the approval of others. That night, Jian returned to the camp. He placed his sword beside him. Then he looked around at the sleeping soldiers. No one was watching. No one was applauding. No one knew what he had done. And strangely, for the first time in his life, Jian felt completely at peace with that. Because he had finally learned the lesson his father had tried to teach him years ago. A sword does not need to shout to be sharp. And a truly strong person does not need to prove that they are strong. But the journey was not finished. The following morning, a messenger arrived with news that would test Jian in a way no battlefield ever could. The war was not over. And this time, the enemy would not attack his army, they would attack his heart. The messenger arrived just after sunrise. His horse was covered in dust, his breathing was heavy. He dismounted quickly and hurried toward General Ren. "General, the enemy has sent a challenge." The soldiers nearby became silent. General Ren unfolded the message. His expression changed. "What does it say?" Bo stepped closer. The general read the message aloud. "The enemy commander has challenged our strongest warrior to a single combat." The camp erupted in whispers. Bo immediately stepped forward. "I will go." Several soldiers cheered. Bo looked around proudly. "This is what I have been waiting for." Jian remained silent. General Ren studied the message again. Then he looked toward Jian. "There is more." He continued reading. "The enemy commander specifically names Jian." The camp became completely silent. Every face turned toward him. Bo looked surprised. Jian felt his heart tighten. His name was written in the enemy's message. The enemy commander knew who he was. For a moment, the old Jian returned. The young man who hated being underestimated. The young man who wanted everyone to know he was strong. The young man who had once accepted every challenge simply because someone had questioned his courage. His hand slowly moved toward his sword. Bo noticed. "Jian, you must accept." The other soldiers began whispering. "If he refuses, they will think he is afraid. He cannot let them insult him. Everyone will remember this." Those words entered Jian's mind. Everyone will remember. Everyone will know. Everyone will judge. His heart began beating faster. General Ren said nothing. He simply watched. Jian looked toward the mountains. Then he remembered his father's voice. "A sword that is always drawn will eventually cut the hand that holds it." Jian slowly removed his hand from his sword. "I refuse." The soldiers stared at him. Bo's eyes widened. "You refuse?" Jian nodded. Bo stepped closer. "After everything you said about strength?" Jian looked at him calmly. "I never said strength means accepting every challenge." Bo's voice became louder. "Then what will people say?" Jian answered quietly. "They can say whatever they want." The camp fell silent. But this time, Jian felt something different. The silence did not feel like weakness, it felt like freedom. General Ren folded the message. "Good." One of the officers looked confused. "General?" the old commander explained. "The enemy wants to control Jian's emotions. They know his reputation, they know his pride, and they are trying to make him fight on their terms." He looked at the soldiers. "A warrior who cannot control his anger can be defeated before the battle even begins." Jian listened carefully. The enemy had not attacked his body. They had attacked his ego. And for the first time, he had recognized the attack before it could control him. But the story did not end there. That afternoon, a group of villagers arrived at the camp. Among them was an old farmer. He approached Jian. His face was filled with anger. "My son died in yesterday's battle." Jian lowered his head. "I am sorry." The farmer pointed toward him. "You should have protected him." The surrounding soldiers became uncomfortable. Jian remained silent. The farmer continued. "People call you a great warrior. But my son is dead. What good is your greatness now?" Jian felt the words strike deep inside him. He wanted to defend himself. He wanted to explain. He had saved 3 soldiers. He had warned the commander. He had helped change the battle. He had done everything he could. But none of those explanations would bring the farmer's son back. Jian took a slow breath. "You are right." The soldiers looked at him in surprise. The farmer stared at him. Jian continued. "I cannot bring your son back, and I will not use my actions as an excuse to make your pain smaller." The old farmer's eyes filled with tears. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he turned away. Jian watched him leave. Bo approached. "You should have defended yourself." Jian shook his head. "Why?" "Because he blamed you for something that wasn't your fault." Jian looked toward the road where the farmer had disappeared. "Perhaps. But sometimes, people don't need our explanation. They need someone willing to hear their pain." Bo remained silent. That evening, Jian walked alone beyond the camp. He reached the same stream where General Ren had spoken to him the night before. He sat beside the water. For a long time, he watched the current move around the stones. He realized something painful. Silence was not simply refusing to speak. Silence was learning when speech would only feed the ego. He could have argued with the farmer. He could have proved himself right. He could have reminded everyone of his achievements. But what would that have accomplished? Nothing. The farmer would still have lost his son. His family would still be grieving. And Jian would still be carrying the desire to be understood. Perhaps, true strength was not about winning every misunderstanding. Perhaps, it was about knowing which misunderstandings could safely remain unanswered. The next morning, General Ren called Jian into his tent. "There is another message." Jian looked at him. "From the enemy?" The general nodded. "They know you refused the duel." "What do they say?" The general hesitated. Then he handed Jian the message. Jian read it. His expression remained calm. The enemy commander had written, "Perhaps the famous warrior Jian is not a warrior at all. Perhaps he is simply afraid." Bo stood nearby. He clenched his fists. "They insulted you." Jian folded the message. "Yes." "Are you going to let them say that?" Jian looked at him. "Yes." Bo stared at him. "How can you?" Jian smiled. "Because their words do not become truth simply because they are spoken loudly." Bo said nothing. Jian continued. "If I know who I am, why should I spend my life convincing strangers?" The old general smiled. "Now, you understand." Outside the tent, the soldiers were preparing for another battle. But this time, Jian felt no need to prove himself. He had discovered something far more valuable than victory. The world would always have something to say. Someone would question his courage. Someone would criticize his decisions. Someone would misunderstand his silence. Someone would try to provoke him. And if he spent his life answering every voice, he would never hear his own. Jian walked toward the battlefield. His sword remained sheathed. His steps were steady. His mind was quiet. But as he approached the northern ridge, he saw something that made him stop. A small group of enemy soldiers had captured several villagers. Women, children, old men. They were being forced toward the enemy camp. Jian's expression changed. This time, silence was no longer enough. There was a moment when a warrior must speak. A moment when a person must stand. A moment when strength must become action. Jian looked at his soldiers. "Stay behind me." He slowly drew his sword. The blade caught the morning sunlight. Not for pride. Not for applause. Not to prove that he was strong. But because there are moments in life when protecting what is right requires courage. And the silent warrior was about to enter the greatest battle of his life. Jian stood at the edge of the battlefield. The morning sun rose slowly above the mountains. Its golden light touched the fields, the trees, the distant villages, and the faces of the people standing behind him. The enemy soldiers had gathered near the river. Between them stood the villagers they had captured. Children were crying. An old woman held her grandson tightly. A farmer looked toward Jian with frightened eyes. For a moment, everything became strangely quiet. Jian remembered the lesson he had learned during the long months of training. Strength was not about being the loudest. It was not about winning every argument. It was not about proving that you were better than someone else. But there are moments when silence becomes an excuse. And when that moment comes, a strong person must stand. Jian raised his sword. "Put down your weapons." His voice was calm, but it carried across the valley. The enemy commander stepped forward. "So, the silent warrior finally speaks." Jian looked at him. "I speak because there are innocent people between us." The commander laughed. "You refused my challenge. You allowed everyone to believe you were afraid. And now you pretend to be a hero? Jian did not respond to the insult. Instead, he looked at the villagers. Then he looked at his soldiers. Lower your weapons. The soldiers were confused. Commander? Do as I say. Slowly. The soldiers lowered their swords. The enemy commander smiled. He thought Jian had surrendered. Perhaps you are finally wise enough to understand that you cannot defeat us. Jian remained still. Then he said, release the villagers. The enemy commander laughed again. And if I refuse? Jian looked directly into his eyes. Then we will fight. The commander smiled. Now you sound like a warrior. Jian answered quietly. No. Now I sound like a man who knows what is worth fighting for. The enemy commander raised his hand. His soldiers prepared to attack. For a few seconds, nobody moved. Then, a horn sounded. The battle began. Jian and his soldiers advanced. But they did not charge blindly. They moved carefully. Their first goal was not to destroy the enemy. It was to protect the villagers. Jian led his men toward the center. When an enemy soldier attacked, he defended. When another tried to approach the children, Jian blocked him. His movements were controlled. There was no anger in his face, no desire for revenge, only purpose. The battle lasted for hours. Slowly, the enemy began losing ground. The villagers were moved safely behind the defensive line. Finally, the enemy commander realized his plan had failed. He ordered his soldiers to retreat. As the enemy disappeared into the northern hills, the battlefield became silent once again. Jian stood among the exhausted soldiers. His sword was covered in dust. His clothes were torn. But he remained standing. The villagers were safe. That was enough. Bo approached him. You could have become famous today. Jian looked at him. Why? Because everyone saw what you did. Jian smiled. Then let them see. Bo laughed. You've changed. Jian looked toward the rising sun. Perhaps. No, he paused. I think I finally became who my father wanted me to become. Later that afternoon, General Ren gathered the soldiers. He stood before the entire army. Today, we won because we fought with discipline. But there is one person I want to recognize. Everyone looked toward Jian. Jian immediately shook his head. The general smiled. You don't want praise. No, General. Why? Jian looked at the soldiers around him. Because I did not fight alone. These men stood beside me. They protected the villagers. They carried the wounded. They faced fear. If you praise me, you should praise all of them. The soldiers became silent. Then one man began clapping. Another joined. Then another. Soon, the entire camp erupted in applause. Jian stood quietly. This time, he did not run from recognition. He simply accepted it. Without needing it. And that was another lesson. Humility does not mean believing you are worthless. It means knowing your worth, without needing to place yourself above others. That evening, Jian sat beneath the same pine tree where he had once sharpened his sword. The sun was disappearing beyond the mountains. General Ren sat beside him. You finally understand your father's lesson. Jian smiled. Yes. The general looked at the horizon. Tell me, what is strength? Jian thought for a long moment. Then he answered. Strength is knowing when to speak, and when to remain silent. It is knowing when to fight, and when to walk away. It is being able to hear criticism without losing yourself. It is being able to accept praise without becoming arrogant. And perhaps most importantly, it is knowing that you do not need to prove your worth to everyone. The old general smiled. Now, you are no longer simply a warrior. Jian looked at him. What am I? A man who has learned how to master himself. The words remained with Jian for the rest of his life. And perhaps, they are meant for us too. Because the world we live in today is not so different from the world of Jian. We may not carry swords. But every day, we face battles. The battle to prove ourselves at work. The battle to appear successful. The battle to respond to criticism. The battle to defend our reputation. The battle to show people that we are doing better than they think. Social media makes this struggle even louder. Everyone seems to be showing their achievements, their wealth, their happiness, their perfect lives. And without realizing it, we begin comparing our lives to everyone else's. We begin asking, do they think I'm successful? Do they respect me? Do they see how hard I work? Do they know what I've sacrificed? But perhaps. The lesson of the silent warrior is this. You do not need to explain your entire journey to people who only see one chapter. You do not need to answer every insult. You do not need to win every argument. You do not need applause for every sacrifice. Keep working. Keep learning. Keep becoming stronger. Let your actions speak when words are unnecessary. And when the moment comes to stand for something that truly matters, do not remain silent out of fear. Stand. Speak. Act. Not because you need to prove who you are, but because you already know. Your strength does not come from the opinions of others. Your worth does not rise when people praise you, and it does not fall when they criticize you. Like the mountain, remain. Like the bamboo, bend when you must. Like the sword, become stronger through quiet discipline. And like the sunrise, rise again tomorrow. Perhaps nobody will notice. Perhaps nobody will applaud. Perhaps nobody will understand how hard the journey has been. But keep going, because the greatest victories in life are often won in silence. Thank you for spending this time with Zen Sunrise Life. If this story touched something inside you, subscribe to Zen Sunrise Life and join us for another journey into the wisdom of the past. Here, we do not simply listen to ancient stories, we bring their lessons into our lives today. Until we meet again beneath another sunrise, stay strong, stay humble, stay patient, and remember, you never have to prove your strength to the world. Sometimes, the quietest person in the room is the strongest one there.